I know that you have been campaigning since what happened to your daughters for the police to get it. And from that clip there, the Commissioner reacting to that report, do they get it?
He's dropped a real clanger here, and hopefully he will know that, because every report is picking him up on that. This isn't a time for semantics. This isn't a time to kind of dig your heels in. This is an example of the arrogance of the police in general. What was needed and what is needed, and what I hope he will do, is go away and rethink what he's just said. And I will have the utmost respect for him if he comes back and says, in hindsight, I think it's more important that I take people with me and use the language that they understand. Because, as the presenter said, she defined the definition. And he's right as well when he's saying, you know, we've got really big issues here. So why squabble? Why focus on the... I'm not going to use that language.
You use the word organisation, I think, instead of institutional.
Yeah.
When you look the two side by side, like you said, it literally is semantics. But does this feed into the response today, which, you know, I listened to a radio phone-in on the way in today, and people were very quick to call in and defend the police, not just the Met Police, but the police officers in general. And that feeds into the debate that, you know, it isn't all police officers. It goes back to the bad apples. But this report isn't necessarily talking about toxic individuals. It's talking about a system, an organisation that allows this to happen and doesn't check it, doesn't stop it, allows it to spread. It might be the few, but it affects the many.
Well, you know, these WhatsApp groups, you know, we'll use the right language. The police took selfies of my dead bodies of my girls and shared them with 30-odd other police officers who clearly thought like them. Otherwise, you wouldn't send it. And now, that isn't something that will happen overnight. You know, the first infringement might be something small, you get away with that. Very much like Cousins. You know, him exposing himself was a gateway to every time he did it and got away with it, poor Sarah Everard paid the price. And so the issue is that it is institutional. It is. And no one has ever heard me say, bash the police. I have family members in the Met Police. And so I know that there are good police. And in fact, my family members who came with me to the trial, they thought over, should we leave the force? Because do we really want to work for an institution that can do this? And thankfully, they've stayed. And I said to them, no, you mustn't go. It's the bad ones that need to go. And please, people, do not hang on to that you need to defend the police, because the good ones, we know they're out there.
And you've experienced both sides, right? You've experienced the two faces of the Met, them at their very best, and them, frankly, their very worst.
Yes. And do you know what? I've remained friends with Simon Harding and my family liaison person,
Simon Harding was the lead police officer in the investigation into your daughter's murder.
We're friends. He's been to see me. We've been out for meals. And so I know what good policing is, and so does everybody else. This is not the time to be defending the police, because I've never bashed them and never would.
Well, it's not our job as the public to keep ourselves safe from the police. It's the police's job to keep us safe as the public. Ultimately, it's the Met that has to change itself. Yes. They're the words of Baroness Casey. Yeah. And looking at the Met, it is such a massive organisation. One of the recommendations is that if it can't change, it literally needs to be ripped apart and built again, and whether that's, you know, made smaller, made up differently. I mean, it's not up to us to find the answers, as Baroness Casey said, but...
I was having a conversation with somebody in the green room, and basically they were saying, you know, how would that work? And we know Casey said that, you know, austerity has hurt them. But if it's too big to manage, then one thing you could do is take the counter-terrorism department out and put it with MI5. And, you know, the rapes and assaults on women, you could move that out.
Well, there's talk about a specialist women and children's protection service.
There we go.
Being set up.
That's it. And so it's doable. But as you said, it's not up to us.
No.
I mean, this has become my day job.
I know.
And it's like, I've never worked in the police. My field was religion and drama. I was a drama teacher and assistant principal of a secondary school.
But now you find yourself policing the police.
Yeah, now I'm doing senior management of, you know, and they need help for outsiders who have the experience to go in and teach them how to do this properly.
Do you think this is going to be a watershed moment? I mean, people have been talking today about the Macpherson inquiry after the death of Stephen Lawrence that found the Metropolitan Police to be institutionally racist. That was over 20 years ago now. Numerous inquiries and reviews into similar incidents have happened. We find ourselves where we are today. The Baroness herself has cited that 50% of women don't have any trust in the police at the moment because of recent events. Do you have trust and faith in the police that they can change, that they will actually do this themselves? It's not going to be your job anymore, and other mothers and fathers and families like you?
Yeah. The truth of the matter is, any changes that we're seeing now has been the tenacity of victims coming forward and
people
speaking
within
out.
the police speaking to Baroness Casey about their experiences.
Yes, and feeling safe enough to do that. I think I'm an optimist. I can't help it. I'm still rooting that, because if Mark can't do it, no one can.
And you speak to him regularly, don't you, and check in with him. And
it's not because he's particularly special. Sorry, Mark. You know, you're just a man like anybody else. But people have spoken. They're saying now, we can't trust you. And we can't have that with women. But a simple thing, I never, ever imagined for a minute that a woman coming into a police station saying that she'd been assaulted by a man would be interviewed on her own with a male police officer.
It's just one of the small things that has to change to make a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to leave viewers with a picture of your daughters smiling. If we could just bring that up on the screen, because, of course, today is about this report, but it's also the work you're doing in behalf of your girls. This is how you want to remember them. Just a short summary of your girls and what they were like and how you want people to remember them.
You know, where you see them there, they were so playful and full of joy, and they were there because they were following COVID rules. You were allowed only to meet. It was Bieber's birthday, so she decided to have a picnic. You could only have 10 people. There were 10 people. And they followed the rules. And if they'd have broken the rules, they would still be alive now.
Oh, Mina. Well, I'm going to leave this interview with their smiling faces. Mina, thank you so much for coming in to talk to us on a day that's difficult for you, but I'm sure there are so many difficult days for you, and you're doing wonderful work on behalf of your girls, and hopefully the Met Police will pick up the mantle now.
Thank you for having me.
And do that hard work. Thank you.
Thank you.